Hello, this is billpolm recording in Oregon on the 15th of March 2012. It's just about 12:40 in the afternoon. What I'm going to do is a series of very simple mini demonstrations to illustrate some of the important principles of watercolor painting. What I've done is drawn a couple of simple circles on this sheet of paper, a small one and a larger one, creating kind of like a donut. What I'm going to paint next is called by Tom Lynch, maybe not in this exact form, but he calls it the exercise for color variety. And I'm going to illustrate two things in one demonstration. You can look over here and see, I'm alone so I'm doing the camera, a couple palettes. There's a old porcelain serving dish back here in the corner. This is my circular porcelain Stephan Quiller palette, and nearby is the rectangular porcelain Cheap Joe's Cavalcade palette, all of them with far more colors than I really need. Coming back here, when you paint and mix colors, what works easiest and best often are analogous colors. That's where we start. For example, at the top here with some yellow. Now, an analogous color to yellow, of course, is orange. Here's an orange that is actually fairly close to the Perignon orange. You notice then when I add the second color, I'm painting a little bit into the first color, which is still wet. Both of them are quite wet. Then I come down and I'm going to pull up some Pyrrole, P-Y-R-O-R-R-O-L-E, or so, various spellings, red, and come into the orange, which is quite wet. Really good example of analogous colors close to each other on the color wheel is the fall colors of leaves and such like that. Works real well. Next to red, we can have some phthalo blue, which will probably be kind of a dull purple, but it'll work. Notice the drier it gets, the more it retains the shape of the brush strokes that I put on it. Next to the phthalo blue, I'm going to go into, let's use some, where is it here? Yeah, they're Cascade Green that I told you about from Daniel Smith Colors. Once again, painting into the previous color that I put on. Working my way from area to area. In this case, it is around a circle. We can come in and use some sap green to give a little warmer green next to the cool Cascade Green, like that. Up here at the top, I'm going to keep my colors fairly consistent. Come in with a orange or yellow. Now notice it doesn't blend quite as well here because that's dry now. Okay. Then I'm just picking these colors at random. There's no, other than trying to keep them fairly analogous, close to each other on the color wheel so that they blend fairly well and they don't look ugly. This is ultramarine blue. Around like that. There. Sometimes when you want them to excuse me, blend a little more, just hit them with a little water, or with a little spray bottle here. This one's made by the, or sold by the Atelier, or however you pronounce it, company that makes acrylics that stay wet longer than the ordinary acrylics. So I blew some of my paint upwards. We come in and blot that up with a Kleenex. Kleenex is really good for this sort of thing. So it looks fairly nice. Now, you can see how beautiful those colors blend. Let's take and do some greens. Let's start with a little Cascade green right here. Let me make it a little thicker. Then I'm coming in, rinse my brush out, hit the rag to draw some of the water out. Bring that down like that. Now let's see what happens when I add some Naples Yellow. This is made by the Blancs, B-L-O-C-K-X, I think it is, company. Rather slightly expensive watercolors. Let's put some of that Naples Yellow, dragging a little more of this down here. You get kind of a beautiful, cool, subtle green like that. Let's keep going with our greens for a second here. And we'll start with I'll start with whatever, really. This is going to be sap green. Put it on. While it's still wet, I go in and pull out, I use a little more phthalo blue into it. Now what you want to look for is how the greens change as we move downward. I could even mix in a little ultramarine blue with that to get even a cooler blue coming downward, excuse me. And then also I'll pull in some Hansa yellow at the bottom of this, which operates kind of like a cadmium yellow, showing a different green. Yet, now at the bottom of that, I'll pull a little alizarin crimson, just a little bit, because when you're using the opposite color, called the complementary color, the change is rather drastic, but you can see that it's rather pretty too if you don't put too much of it in there. So in making your greens, the best thing to do, always, either start with a green and modify it for sure, because it's too candy-like, too pretty, coming right out of the tube. Most of these convenience greens, modify it, or mix any yellow and any blue and add a touch of green or maybe a slight touch of red, and you can vary those greens all over the ballpark. Now, let's do something different. Let's say we have a hill in the background, and what I'm doing here is just mixing all this stuff that I was working with here, even the red and everything, just all together to create kind of a, and put a little more red in it here. Notice how smoothly that this stuff mixes on the porcelain. It cleans nice and quickly and completely, unlike plastic, which can be stained easily from the colors, like phthalo green, phthalo blue, and yes, the Paranone orange can stain too. I'm going down lower on my paper here. Let's pretend that I'm going to paint some mountains in the background here. I like this. Make sure that I have a lot of wet in my wash here, starting the mountain. Still didn't get enough. That's why I like your big brushes. Helpful. You can get more color down here to work with. It's when it starts drying out too fast on you that you have a problem. Now I go into the water. You might be able to hear I'm washing out my brush, hitting the rag, taking a lot of the water out of the brush, coming into the bottom of it here, just coming across kind of like in a scrub technique. If I have to, get a little more water and thin it out further so that we see kind of the misty bottom to a mountain there. That is painting on color and then softening an edge. Very important. In nature and the way light falls on things, you have not hard edges everywhere, but you have a variety of hard edge here, soft edge next to it, another hard edge, maybe a longer soft edge, a lot of variety in lengths and darkness versus light, and all of that. But the main thing to remember is this lost and found edge, where you can see the edge here and it disappears. Here's a hard edge, here's a soft edge. This is a found edge, this is a lost edge. And once this is dry, I can come into the top and put another mountain right in here, just like we did with the waves, the exact same situation. So these are cardinal principles of watercolor painting. Number one, I painted it, I didn't touch it. Now, looking over here, let's get the camera up there. Up here, I painted this, I left it alone. Over here, I painted it, I left it alone. You do what you need to on the paper fairly quickly, and then you move on and leave it alone so that it dries by itself. Now this time I shot some water in here so you can see it's a little uneven as it dries. Now sometimes you want that. You want the textural effect of spraying some water on it. Here, like I say, whoop, see what happens? It's still wet. If I go in here and mess with this with a brush or anything else, it's not going to be as pretty. Okay? It's going to get rid of the smoothness. I painted the fake mountain here, also left it alone. Okay? And you have to get a feel for how much water you need in your brush at any particular time with any particular technique. You can get formulas, but the formulas really don't work very well. What you need to do is practice and practice and practice and get a feel for, like during what I'm trying to do here and softening here. See, I had a little too much water. It started leaking upwards. So you have to learn by experience how much to use and what will happen if you use a certain amount of water in your brush or a certain less amount of water in your brush. So all of these things I'm talking about are cardinal principles of watercolor painting. Softening edges, color variety by painting wet, and while it's still wet, painting into the previously painted area with your new paint and working your way. If I were painting in a tree with my greens, say, and I got several pools of my greens over here in my palette, I would work my way through that tree. Let's see if I have any room left on this paper for a little bit of work. Oh, right there. By varying the color. And come down here and scrub down using this edge of the brush just in a scrubbing motion like this. Now I come in, get some stronger green, maybe pick up some yellow with it to get a little yellow green area. See, I painted this one into that. I painted this into this right here so that they blend together. Bring it down here. Then come in and put a little blue in that. Actually quite a bit of blue, too much blue, into that, and come over here and do another color, working, scrubbing, getting ragged edges through this dry brush technique. See, like that, by scrubbing like that, just rubbing the edge of the knife edge of the flat brush against the paper. Now down here, I probably want a little more yellow for variety.